What's going on, everybody? It's Horse Beef. I want to talk about the best losing performances in UFC history today. And the ones I will be leaving out would be the performance, like the best performances that should have been winning performances. You know what I mean? So, like, for example, a Volkov versus Gane the last time out, that would be considered a blatant robbery. So that wouldn't be in the running for this. So the blatant robberies are left out. But some of the closer fight performances, of course, will be in here because that's why they are such great losing performances. You know, a fight has to be somewhat close for a losing performance to be great. You know what I mean? But let's get into it right now, dude. Let's first start off with, you know, one of the fighters I'm a huge hater of. That's Izzy versus DDP. You know, I think for this stage, at least the stage that Izzy was at then, it's the same stage he's at now, but since then he's been knocked out by Imavov, which is a bad look. But I would say go back and watch his performance against DDP. He looked so good on this night. He was aggressive. He was offensively striking. His hands looked fantastic. I would say that Izzy's hands against DDP looked better than I had ever seen them in the UFC up to that point. It was a great performance, and I said it in my recap of this fight, and I'm sticking with that now. It's one of Izzy's best performances because he put in a ballsy fucking performance against a juggernaut like DDP. He took risks, and I only have respect for that. So Izzy, for me, his performance against DDP, even though he lost the fight, I feel like he gained stock. He gained stock at the same time and at least earned a lot of respect and admiration from fans who maybe didn't really show him a whole lot of grace previously, and that goes for myself too. Because that performance didn't exactly make me a fan, but it turned me around on him in a way. But at the same time, I still think about the dog shit. I'm like, okay, you know what? It's weird as fuck. Izzy is strange, but this was such a fantastic performance. And then we have the Korean Zombie against Yair Rodriguez. Now, it was such a good performance, and I just wish this didn't happen. Like, even though it's one of the craziest knockouts of all time, like to land a fucking upwards elbow like that in the last second of a fight after like baiting Korean Zombie into it, like TKZ was so dumb in that last moment, but he fought such a good fight, was arguably sweeping the entire fight up to that point, made a dumbass lapse in judgment. But it was close though. But I would say because of that dumbass lapse in judgment, I'm going to stick this one in B tier. It's middle of the pack as far as best losing performances go. Because even though he was dominating the fight, man, you ran into an elbow and you lost and you got slumped like that. It was crazy. And that moment right there potentially altered the course of TKZ's career going forward because he was on such a bomb ass run. I think he had just knocked out Moicano and picked up some pretty good knockouts along the way, man. Like when he returned from his, I believe it was mandatory military service, and he looked so good here, dude. It was such a shame that Yair got the win because Yair is so annoying. But the fuck, let's get into the next one here. Cub Swanson against Doo Ho Choi. Now the reason why I want to include this one is just because Doo Ho Choi somehow survived. I don't know how he could be so durable. He somehow survived this fight. He took his lickings, right, and he gave it back to Swanson. He almost had Swanson out of there a couple of times, and he just understood the assignment, right? Cub Swanson stood in the middle of the octagon. Doo Ho Choi obliged, but he got beat up here. So is the performance itself the greatest? No, but I just think the fact that he managed to survive and give it back to Cub despite some of those bombs he was getting hit with, man, it's admirable. So I'm going to put that in C tier. Then we get Rory McDonald against Robbie Lawler. Now this one I would actually put this up here with Izzy's performance against DDP because yeah, they were both finished, although Rory's was a bit different. He was finished via like damage accumulation. He just couldn't take the shots of that nose anymore. Like really it was just Robbie spamming little flicking left hands and jabs at the nose at a certain point, and that's all it really took to accumulate that damage. But Rory was arguably on his way to beating Robbie in this fight. He was hurting Robbie with a couple of head kicks, put him on wobbly legs, man. He got him against the fence and hit him with beautiful flurries of combinations, knees in there as well, but he just could not take the damage, right? It was the damage accumulation that got to Rory, and oh man, like what a fucking performance it was up to that point, though. Like up until the point where he crumbled, he was beating up Robbie Lawler, and it was pretty awesome, man. He was such a great fighter. The Red King is so underrated. I would say he's one of the best fighters of all time to never win a strap in the UFC. He's incredible fighter. He was. Then we get Diego Sanchez against Gilbert Melendez. Now, goddamn, this was a crazy performance because Diego Sanchez, quite frankly, got beat up by Gilbert in the first two rounds. But the way that he rallied in round 3 hurts Gilbert real bad. Man, I just wish that Sanchez got the finish in that third round because it would have been like the best comeback of all time. But he did hurt Gilbert, put it on him in that third, and he just showed that he wanted that win, man. Like, just dug real deep, man, reached into the fire and pulled out a fucking uppercut from hell, dropped Gilbert. Awesome rally in the third round. But he did get beat up for the majority of the fight, though. But that rally, dude. That rally. I'm going to put that in B tier. Let me get Chael Sonnen against Anderson Silva. Now, I'm going to say that because of the fact that Chael Sonnen did this to Anderson Silva. Or Anderson Silva didn't look human going into this fight. He didn't look human, right? He was toying with all of his opponents, making it look easy. He was making it look so easy that Dana White kind of like hated him at a point because he just looked uninterested in the cage, right? And you go into this fight with Chael Sonnen, and Chael dominates Anderson. Like, so clearly, Anderson had nothing for Chael in this fight up until he sunk in the triangle, and then Chael mistakenly tapped, thinking that it ended the round and not the fight. So, like, obviously, he complete ignorance on that one, 100%. But, dude, he beat up Anderson. He didn't just take him down and dominate him. He also, like, dropped him and hurt him on the feet, man. This was a crazy performance, a career performance from Chael Sonnen. That makes me honestly want to put it in S tier because of the fact that he did it to Anderson Silva. He did this to Anderson Silva. It was ridiculous. Like, at that time, this wasn't even thought possible, right? And it's Chael Sonnen of all people to do it. It's just amazing. So I'm honestly going to keep that one in S tier for now. Then we get Jose Aldo versus Chad Mendes 2. Now, Chad Mendes, around this time, this was the fight that proved it to me that Chad Mendes, without Jose Aldo in the picture at that time, probably would have been a champion. Right, and then Alexander Volkanovski emerged as well. And then he had to run into Alexander Volkanovski, which sucks for him. But Chad Mendes would have 100% been a champion if it wasn't for these elite of the elite fighters. 100%. And this fight, like I said, proved that shit. Landing bombs on Jose Aldo. Like, the speed that this fight was fought at. Like, watch this fight. It's like watching a child that clink action figures together. Because the way that these two fought each other, the speed, man, it was insane. This is one of my favorite fights of all time. It's one of the best title fights of all time. And Chad Mendes proved that he could be in there with the best of the best and remain competitive. And the fact that he was able to maintain his explosiveness up until the fifth round, man, he was so good. Chad Mendes is such an unfortunate fighter because he was so clearly championship material. He just had to be in there with people like Jose Aldo and Volkanovski, like I said. And Conor McGregor on his come up, just such an unlucky career. But man, what a performance for a loser. But he did that against prime Jose Aldo as well. But it was a clear victory for Jose. Although, yeah, I'm gonna say B tier for Chad Mendes. Absolutely. You could honestly argue that it could be A tier, man. Now I'm gonna put that in A tier. I'm putting in A tier. Chad Mendes looked like a world beater against Jose Aldo. Then we get to Peter Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. Now, holy shit. I hate this fight. Repressed memories. Had to reach deep within to even include this here and talk about it in the first place. But Peter Yan was quite frankly babying Aljamain Sterling. Like, on the feet, obviously Sterling had nothing for Peter except for throwing his arms at him like an inflatable tube, man, making Peter Yan shell up. It's all he had. Even in the grappling, Peter Yan babied him, ragdolled him. Everything he wanted to do to Aljamain Sterling, he did to him. And then he loses the fight because he throws a dumbass illegal knee. Honestly, that was stupid as shit. I've come to terms with it at this point. Peter Yan deserved to lose that fight because that was such a stupid fucking mistake to make. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, it wasn't like he was beating the brakes off of Aljo. It was a closer fight than I remember it being. But just the way that he was toying with Aljamain Sterling, something to behold on, especially in the grappling. Like, those clinch throws from Peter Yan. Like, Aljo didn't look like he should have been in there with him. But I'm going to put that one at B tier. Then we get Kelvin Gastelum against Israel Adesanya. And I don't think people were giving Kelvin Gastelum any sort of a chance going into this. He was just a fat welterweight. But he was piecing up Izzy. He could have potentially won a decision if he had a better fifth round, right? And he even rocked Izzy with a head kick, like, real bad, and somehow decides that the right course of action is to shoot for legs, man. Oh, my goodness. Like, if there were just a few things different in that fight, if Kelvin had made a few calls differently, and we could have potentially seen Kelvin Gastelum awarded with the win on that night. He could have even finished Israel Adesanya. This was arguably a career best performance for Kelvin considering who he was up against. You know what I mean? His hands looked incredible, man. This is such a great performance, and this fight in and of itself, like, I know I've already spoken about this is with the best fights of all time, but this is truly one of the best fights of all time, and Kelvin's performance is worthy of that. Yeah, I'm gonna keep this one in A tier. On top of the fact that he was able to survive that fifth, I don't know why the ref didn't stop it to begin with, but dude, the Mexican chin is just otherworldly. And then we get into Usman versus Colby Covington. Now, I'm going to just group both fights into this one because Colby Covington displayed such fucking courage in both fights. In the first one, I actually thought he was beating Usman going into the fifth. And then there was a bit of an early stoppage, but it's not super egregious. Although at the same time, I would feel hard done by if I was Colby Covington because he fought so well, man. His hands looked awesome in their first fight. In the second fight, he looked a step behind, gets dropped in the first 2 rounds, and then rallies and arguably wins 3, 4, and 5. And once again, is boxing the bleeding head off of Usman. And he looked so good in those fights, man. Like, I don't know what it was about Colby. Because I don't know. He doesn't have a great resume. He really doesn't. He's beaten a whole lot of old fighters. But it was just when he went in there with Usman. I don't know if it was Usman just being willing to play that game with Colby. It seemed like it was like that. But Colby obliged, man, and he really, really looked great. Those are his best performances. I don't care what anyone says. You could say his performance against Robbie or RDA or Masvidal, one of these old dudes. But no, his most impressive performances were the wars that he put on with Kamaru Usman for me. But I know I wouldn't rank it in S tier, though, honestly. Say, averaging it out, probably B tier. B tier, I think, is pretty fair for that. But then we get into Stipe Miocic against DC number 2. Now, of course, we're talking about DC here because Stipe did have to rally, made the adjustment, started landing the liver shot, and that's when the fight turned around. But up until that point, Stipe had no defense to be seen. DC was just hand fighting, peppering him with jabs, 1-2s, and really just dominating the majority of that fight until, of course, Stipe found the adjustment. And it's one of the best comebacks of all time because of how badly he was getting beat up. He was getting beat up in here. I don't understand how he managed to take all those shots from DC the second time around. Made no sense. The rally from Stipe is incredible, but the performance from DC up until Stipe rallied was a fucking masterclass. He was beating the shit out of Stipe, but dude, that liver shot was too nasty. I'm not sure where to put this one. Like Stipe, he looked like he just had nothing until he did make that adjustment. Yeah, I'm gonna keep this one B tier. I think B tier is pretty fair because DC did land some eye pokes and he was fighting a little dirty. I know the third fight Stipe fought dirty and eye poked him, but I'm pretty sure DC also eye poked Stipe in the third fight too. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong there. But then we get Islam versus Volkanovski, and this one is just going to the very, very tippy top. If there could be a tier above S, I mean, obviously it's my tier list, so I could have included a tier above S, but you know what I mean? This is the best losing performance of all time. I know some people would say, well, that's a robbery though, but I disagree. I did cover it in my Revisiting Robberies series I will be bringing back pretty soon. I did cover this, right? And I did come to the conclusion that it is not a robbery. So that's why I include it here. I just can't genuinely say it was a robbery without foregoing my integrity. I just can't do it. But the performance from Volkanovski is undoubtedly the greatest performance from any fighter who lost a fight. The way that he stood toe-to-toe with Islam, the man fought this fight with absolutely no fear. He looked like half of Islam's size. I know some people will say, actually Volkanovski weighed the same amount, or he actually weighed 2 pounds more than Islam on the night. Don't give a shit. Look at their frames. Look at the size of them standing side by side. No, Islam is the much bigger man than Volkanovski. Volk is very dense, though, of course. He's very deceptively big. But Islam just looked so much bigger than him on the night. Don't care about the weight. You can hold your tongue there or hold your little fingers there. You don't have to let me know. I understand that very much. They were close in weight technically on the night. But no, Islam was much bigger. This was like a total David and Goliath fight. And Volkanovski put in a performance worthy of David. He genuinely did, man. And then we get into Khalil Roundtree's performance against Alex Pereira. Now, of course, he got brutalized, but up until that point, he was putting the beats on Alex Pereira. He was, man. He looked so great, courageous. Man, I just respect this performance very much from Khalil Roundtree. The fact that he was given the shot to begin with was a joke, and if he went out there and he got starched, then it would have been a joke, but he rose to the occasion until he just could not keep up anymore. But this was such a great performance. I love it. I'm going to put that one in B tier because he got finished in the end, though. But then we get Dustin Poirier against Islam Makhachev. Now, he was finished, but I think this may actually have been a better performance than the Khalil Roundtree one. I might put this one in A, but it's the fact that he was finished, right? But then again, Rory McDonald was finished too. And DP, like to be at that stage of his career as well, that could have been his retirement fight. And he went toe-to-toe with the pound-for-pound number 1 in the world. until he got ankle picked and he got darsed, right? It is what it is. But up to that point, DP looked amazing. The takedown defense looked better than it had ever been. DP just looked like the best version of himself on that night. He just happened to be in there with the best fighter in the world. So, man, Dustin Poirier's performance against Islam Makhachev, legendary in my opinion, and that is an A-tier performance. Then we get Gilbert Burns against Khamzat Chimaev. Now, listen to me right now. With hindsight, this is an S-tier losing performance, because I'm not saying it's a robbery, but there is 100% an argument that Gilbert should have actually won this fight. I'm not saying it's a robbery. I'm not saying he did win this fight and he was blatantly robbed, but you have to score the second round for Gilbert, and you can score the third round for Gilbert as well. You can. He landed the bigger shots in my opinion, but I know the optics-wise, Khamzat was on the front foot. He did land some pretty good shots himself, but I thought that Burns landed the bigger shots. But man, like, knowing what we know about Khamzat Chimaev, he's considered to be an unbeatable force. And look at how human Gilbert Burns made him look in this fight. Just watch it back again. One of the best fights of all time. And Gilbert Burns is a big reason for that, because he did not allow Khamzat to steamroll him in the first. Like, Khamzat was dragging him around the octagon in the first round. And Gilbert rallied, man. He rallied. It was such a great fight, such a great performance. Dropped Khamzat as well. Put him on he put him in serious danger in this fight. He did. No one has made Khamzat look human like that quite yet. Great war. Then we get into Yair against Max Holloway. It was a pretty fun performance. He kind of did force Max Holloway to utilize wrestling, which we never really see, but he was super tricky in this fight, dude. Yair, from all positions, from his back, throwing up kicks, kind of landed a nice little kick off of his back on Max Holloway as well, but Max Holloway just has a crazy chin, and he was landing some serious shots on Max. He was. The exchanges were great. This is such an awesome fight. And Yair was game, dude. He was game. He was really, really game. I don't know where to put this one, though, because he clearly lost the fight. Very clearly, but it was a great performance. I'm going to put it in C tier. Yeah, I'm going to put it in C tier. Now we have Bobby Green's performance against Rafael Fiziev. And this was an awesome fight in general. So I would say one of the most underrated fights of all time. This one right here is a complete banger. Both of them biting down the mouthpiece, just standing in the pocket, smiling at each other, taunting each other. Great fight, great exchanges. And Bobby Green was a major reason as to why. And some people say it's a robbery. I disagree. I think Fiziev clearly wins round 1 and 2. And then Bobby really puts it on Fiziev in the third and exposes Fiziev gas tank, because he cannot survive 2 rounds. Like, he really can't, like, at anything of a decent pace, like in a slow pace, like briskly paced fight like he had against an RDA, for example, he's able to keep it up. But in a high paced fight like this, for example, or his fights against Gaethje, he was not able to. And yeah, cool fight. Great head movement on display from Bobby Green. Did get him hurt at times. And great hands. He displayed awesome hands. And I think he made fans of a lot of individuals who really weren't aware of Bobby Green's game, really. And awesome performance, dude. Well, let me get old man Glover Teixeira. His performance against Yuri Prochazka. A fight that he honestly threw away. He could have beaten Yuri Prochazka if he just played it safe in that 5th round. But that's just not the way that Glover Teixeira operates, man. He's always chasing some kind of a finish. He's fucking pulling guillotines like he's Dustin Poirier. He just didn't have to do it and gets choked out in the 5th. And it's, once again, one of the best fights of all time. I feel like that's consistent with a lot of these fights on this particular list. Like, these honestly have a lot in common, that they're all just a bunch of bangers pretty much, with awesome performances coming from the loser. But yes, Yuri Prochazka won this fight, but Glover Teixeira, his hands looked on point. He was pinging Yuri Prochazka's head around the octagon, ragdolling him at times. Yuri honestly didn't have a whole lot for Glover in this fight up until the 5th round. And it's just such a great performance, especially when you consider his age too, man. Like, Glover, it's just crazy that he improved so much at that age and did so well against this phenom that is Yuri Prochazka. Man, yeah, but he made such dumbass calls, didn't he, Glover? He made such dumbass calls, those stupid guillotine attempts. Yeah, man, C tier, but a fucking beyond S tier fight, one of the greatest of all time. Then we get old man Dan Henderson against Michael Bisping. This is the second one here. Now, even though Dan Henderson arguably deserved to lose this one, because yes, he did knock down Bisping in I think 2 rounds and really busted his eye up pretty bad, but he faded in this fight, and Bisping did take over at a certain point, so arguably you could say that Bisping deserved to win this one. But I would say for the age that Dan Henderson was at the time of this fight, I think he was like 46. Insanity. The fact that Michael Bisping even wanted to defend against him in the first place, a 46-year-old man. I guess to get that one back, of course. But for him to perform that well at 46, we don't see that, man. At middleweight, too, 46 years old, 46, and arguably deserved to win a belt on the night. Awesome performance, but he did fade. But he is an old man, or was an old. I mean, he is an old man. He was an old man at the time, so you'd expect him to fade, right? But I would say the age factor propels it a bit. But I'm gonna say C tier. I'm gonna say C tier. Landed H bombs like crazy in this one. They just couldn't get it done, man. Then we get Miktabek Orobai. Oh my God, this fight, man, against Mateusz Rebecki. Oh, dude, the toughness that he showed when Rebecki dropped him. I still to this day I cannot wrap my head around how he survived the onslaught and the ground and pound from Rebecki. Made no sense. But then to rally and arguably win the fight. Like, a lot of people think that Orobai deserved to win this one. I don't really know where I stand there. I don't really like to, I guess, cloud this fight with that kind of controversy, because I just love the fight. I just want to appreciate it. But he got beat the fuck up. I think a lot of this just come from, or like him being included on this list in the first place comes from the toughness that he displayed. And despite being beat the hell up, still pressing forward and putting it on Rebecki, especially in that third round, dude. Such an awesome fight and just a great, courageous performance from Orobai. Like, he looks like he can't see when his eyes are normal, but he had one eye looked like it was completely swollen shut. And dude, just for him to survive is just insanity. But then we get into Steve Erceg against Pantoja. Now, this one could be controversial to be here because I did state that we won't be including the blatant robberies, and some people do consider this to be a blatant robbery. I don't personally. I think Pantoja deserves to win this fight, but it's unmistakable of how well Erceg performed here. His boxing, his counter punching, right? The counter elbows he was landing on Pantoja. Like, Pantoja's lucky that his chin is what it is, because he was just walking through a lot of the shots that Erceg was landing, but Erceg was landing at a pretty high clip, and he looked awesome in this fight. The combinations that he was landing, the scrambling ability that he was showing against Pantoja, dude, Erceg looked awesome in this fight. And that's why it's just so confusing as to why Erceg's career has gone down the path it's gone. I understand he's only been fighting killers, though, so I'm sure you could attribute it to that. But still, I would say career best performance against Pantoja. Looked awesome on the night. Arguably deserved to win, although not a robbery. But I would say that because that's the third fight, or that was the third fight in Erceg's career, pushes it all the way up to A tier for me. Yeah, for me, 100%. Then we get into Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Ian Gary, and I'm going to stick that one at D tier. In fact, D tier is there specifically for this performance, because even though he looked good in this fight, he did better than people were giving him credit for. He also looked like shit in this fight, and this fight in and of itself sucks. I hate this fight so much. I don't like all of the boosting that fans are giving to Ian Gary, giving him all this grace, all this credit for taking Shavkat's back and almost finishing him in the fifth. He got held against the cage and had nothing on the feet at all. Ian Gary has regressed so much as a fighter, and this particular performance was a testament to that. One of the safest fighters in the UFC. Oh, he's so quote-unquote technical, right? Like, oh my goodness, man. The nerdy UFC fans love Ian Gary. I'm not a huge fan of him, not a huge fan of this fight. And honestly speaking, I gave him no shot against Shavkat Rakhmonov, and the fact that he performed as well as he did and made the fight as close as he could. And yeah, it was a great moment in the fifth where he took the back. Of course, it was a great moment. Then again, I don't hold this performance in any sort of high regard, to be honest. It was just a super safe performance, and he survived. So cool, D tier for this one. Then we get into one that I would have not included on this list for a while, because for the longest time I always considered this to be a blatant robbery. Nowadays I don't consider it to be a blatant robbery, but I still do think that Alexander Gustafsson should have been given the decision. And of course I am talking about Gustafsson versus Jones 2. And I would say, this was against prime John Jones, Nike swoosh John Jones. So yes, that is absolutely prime John Jones, and there's no argument against it, right? John Jones with a Nike swoosh was a different animal. Man was partying, drinking, doing cocaine every single week leading up to his fights. Apparently he was doing that leading up to this fight, and it showed for those first 3 rounds, because Gustafsson, you could arguably score those rounds for him, But man, the boxing on display, he made John Jones look so human up to that point. John Jones had never looked beatable up to this point. He had never looked beatable. Didn't look human in the slightest. Looked like no one could even touch him or get close to beating him. This fight showed the world that the man is human. He went up against somebody of similar stature, I think for the first time in his career as well. And that played a huge part because Gustafsson was able to land on him. John Jones was not able to frame off and keep him at range the way he was able to do against the shorter opponents, like the glorified light heavyweights, more realistically middleweights that he was fighting against. And Gustafsson put the beats on him, man. The boxing on display, the check left hooks, and he took down John Jones. He took John Jones down, dude. Gustafsson put in a career best performance and just was not awarded with the win. Now, I want to call this a robbery because I'm a huge Gus fan and I'm a huge John Jones hater in a sense. But at the same time, John Jones put in a great performance himself. He looked great here. Gustafsson arguably looked better, but he did not get the win, and that's perfectly fine. I would still say that maybe Gustafsson's performance against Glover Teixeira was better than this because of just how crisp his boxing looked, and he did finish Glover Teixeira. But the fact that he went up against prime John Jones and made him look human and arguably won the fight, yes, this is an incredible performance. And honestly speaking, now that I'm talking about it, the more I'm talking about it, this performance deserves to be an S tier because, I mean, like John Jones is 100% greater than in Islam Makhachev, for example, right? He is. The longevity of his career. We're talking about, like I keep saying, prime John Jones. Prime John Jones. Now, he doesn't have the added benefit of being like the smaller man, you know, moving up in weight and all that and fighting the bigger man. Like Gustafsson stacked up well with John Jones. The reason why the Volk performance is still the best I've ever seen is because he just looks so much smaller in there. But Gus, he just gave John Jones a look that he had never seen before. And wow, what a performance it was, man. And that does conclude the tier list. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. What do you think about my placements? If you think I left out certain performances that should have been included, let me know, please. And as always, guys, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on the next one.